Unexpected arrival. The vast emptiness of space shattered as the scout ship Stargazer tore through the atmosphere of Sonora Prime, trailing fire and debris. Inside the rapidly descending craft, alarms blared and emergency lights flashed, bathing the cockpit in an eerie red glow. Captain Zara Chen gritted her teeth, her hands locked onto the controls as she fought to stabilize the ship's descent. "Come on, you piece of junk," Zara muttered, her dark eyes narrowed in concentration. "Just hold together a little longer." The ship bucked and shuddered, threatening to break apart at any moment. Zara's mind raced, calculating her odds of survival. The Stargazer had been ambushed by an unknown vessel just as they'd entered Sonora Prime's orbit. One lucky shot had taken out their main drive, sending them plummeting towards the alien world below. As the ground rushed up to meet her, Zara spotted a clearing in the dense, violet-hued forest that covered much of the planet's surface. With a grunt of effort, she angled the Stargazer towards it, praying the ship's remaining systems would hold out for just a few more seconds. The impact was brutal. Zara's harness dug into her shoulders as the ship plowed through the alien vegetation, carving a deep furrow in the soft earth. Metal screamed and tore, and the acrid smell of burning circuitry filled the air. When the Stargazer finally ground to a halt, Zara hung limply in her seat, dazed but alive. Slowly, painfully, she unclipped her harness and stumbled to her feet. A quick systems check confirmed her worst fears. The ship was beyond repair. Worse, the long-range communicator was fried. There would be no calling for help. Zara took a deep breath, forcing down the panic that threatened to overwhelm her. She was alive, and that meant there was still hope. Methodically, she gathered what supplies she could salvage. A portable medkit, emergency rations, a water purifier, and her standard-issue plasma pistol. It wasn't much, but it would have to do. As she worked, Zara's mind drifted to the mission that had brought her to this alien world. Sonora Prime was a potential goldmine of resources and scientific knowledge, but its native inhabitants, the Xenorans, were notoriously isolationist. After years of failed diplomatic overtures, Zara's mission was humanity's last, best hope for establishing peaceful contact. Now, that mission lay in ruins along with her ship. Zara allowed herself a moment of bitter laughter at the irony. She'd certainly made contact with Sonora Prime, just not in the way anyone had intended. With her immediate survival needs addressed, Zara turned her attention to her surroundings. The clearing where she'd crashed was surrounded by towering trees with iridescent bark and leaves that seemed to pulse with an inner light. The air was thick and humid, filled with the calls of unseen creatures and the sweet, cloying scent of alien flora. Zara activated her wrist computer, relieved to find it still functional. The device's sensors began analyzing the local environment, providing her with crucial data on atmospheric composition, temperature, and potential hazards. So far, nothing immediately lethal, but plenty of unknowns. As the adrenaline of the crash began to wear off, Zara felt the first twinges of pain from her injuries. Nothing seemed broken, but she was battered and bruised. She applied some medjol to the worst of her cuts and took a moment to plan her next move. The ship's distress beacon had activated during the crash, but there was no guarantee anyone would pick up its signal. Zara knew her best chance of rescue lay in finding higher ground to boost the signal's range. Her wrist computer's topographical scan revealed a mountain range to the north. It would be a difficult journey through unknown terrain, but it was her only option. Zara shouldered her makeshift pack and took one last look at the wreckage of the Stargazer. "Thanks for getting me this far," she murmured, patting the ship's scorched hull. Then, squaring her shoulders, she set off into the alien forest. The first few hours of her trek were uneventful, if unsettling. The forest was alive with movement and sound, but nothing Zara could readily identify. More than once, she caught glimpses of shadowy forms flitting between the trees, always just at the edge of her vision. Whether curious local wildlife or something more sinister, Zara couldn't be sure. As the alien sun began to set, painting the sky in shades of green and gold, Zara found herself facing a new challenge. The forest floor was becoming increasingly treacherous, riddled with hidden sinkholes and patches of spongy, unstable ground. Each step required careful consideration, slowing her progress to a crawl. It was during one such careful maneuver that Zara heard it, a low, rhythmic humming that seemed to resonate through the very air around her. She froze, every sense on high alert. The humming grew louder, accompanied by a soft rustling from the undergrowth ahead. Zara's hand went to her plasma pistol, but she hesitated to draw it. First contact situations were delicate enough without brandishing weapons. Instead, she crouched low, using the luminescent foliage as cover. The source of the sound soon revealed itself. 3 figures emerged from the shadows, moving with an otherworldly grace. Zara's breath caught in her throat as she got her first clear look at the native Venorans. They were tall and slender, with skin that shimmered like mother of pearl in the fading light. Their faces were eerily human-like, save for their large, multifaceted eyes that reflected the world around them like living mirrors. Each Veneran sported a crest of delicate, feather-like appendages that changed color as they moved. Zara's mind raced. The Xenorans before her appeared young, perhaps the equivalent of human teenagers or young adults. Their manner seemed curious and excited rather than hostile, but she couldn't be sure. Years of diplomatic training warred with her survival instincts as she weighed her options. Before she could decide on a course of action, fate made the choice for her. As Zara shifted her weight, her foot slipped on a patch of loose soil. She tumbled forward with a startled cry, landing in a heap at the feet of the startled Venorans. For a moment, everything was still. Zara looked up, meeting the reflective gaze of the nearest alien. Then, to her amazement, the Xenoran's crest flared a brilliant blue, and it spoke in a voice like chiming crystals. "Hello, strange one," it said in halting, accented English. "We've been waiting a very long time to meet you." Zara blinked, momentarily speechless. Of all the ways she'd imagined first contact going, this certainly hadn't been one of them. But as the initial shock wore off, her training kicked in. Slowly, carefully, she rose to her feet and offered what she hoped was a universal gesture of peace. Open hands, palms forward. "Hello," she replied, her voice steady despite the pounding of her heart. "I am Captain Zara Chen of Earth. I come in peace and friendship." The 3 Xenorans exchanged rapid glances, their crests flickering through a rainbow of colors. Then, as one, they turned back to Zara and mimicked her gesture. "We are Lumi, Jen, and Eris," the one who had spoken before said, indicating each in turn. "We are students. Yes, students of your kind." Zara's mind reeled at the implications. These young Xenorans not only spoke English, but had been studying humans. It seemed impossible, given the lack of official contact between their species. Yet here they were. "How is it you know our language?" Zara asked, unable to contain her curiosity. "We had no formal relations with your people." Lumi, the apparent spokesperson of the group, tilted their head in a gesture eerily reminiscent of a human shrug. "We listen," they said simply. "To the sky, to the stars. Your words travel far." Of course, Zara realized. Earth had been broadcasting radio and television signals into space for over a century. An advanced civilization like the Xenorans would have no trouble intercepting and decoding them. "We have many questions," Jen chimed in, their voice higher and more melodic than Lumi's. "But first, you are injured, yes? And lost." Zara nodded, suddenly aware again of her aching body and precarious situation. "My ship crashed," she explained. "I'm trying to reach higher ground to boost my distress signal." The 3 Xenorans conferred briefly in their own language, a series of musical tones and harmonics that Zara's universal translator couldn't begin to decipher. Finally, Eris spoke for the first time, their voice deep and resonant. "We will help you," they declared. "But in exchange, you will answer our questions. Yes." Zara weighed her options. She was alone on an alien world, injured and ill-equipped for long-term survival. These young Xenorans might be her best chance at staying alive long enough to be rescued, and if she could learn more about their civilization in the process, all the better. Agreed, Zara said with a nod. Lead the way. As the strange group set off into the deepening twilight, Zara couldn't help but marvel at the twists of fate that had brought her here. Her mission had been to establish first contact with the Xenorans, and against all odds, she'd done just that. Now, she just had to stay alive long enough to tell someone about it. The alien forest grew darker as they walked, but the bioluminescent plants provided enough light to see by. Zara found herself mesmerized by the play of colors around her, from the soft glow of the vegetation to the ever-shifting hues of her companions' crests. Where are we going? She asked after they had been walking for some time. To our research outpost, Looney explained. It is not far, and you will be safe there. Zara's curiosity burned. A research outpost dedicated to studying humans. The implications were staggering, but before she could ask more questions, a piercing shriek cut through the night air. The Xenorans froze, their crests flaring a vivid red. Skydancer, Eris hissed. We must hurry. Without further explanation, the group broke into a run, with Zara striving to keep up. As they fled through the underbrush, Zara caught glimpses of a massive, serpentine shape gliding between the treetops above them. Whatever was hunting them, it was big, and it was getting closer. Just as Zara felt her strength beginning to fail, they burst into a small clearing. In the center stood a structure unlike anything she had ever seen, a twisting spire that seemed to be grown rather than built, its surface alive with pulsing lights and shifting patterns. Quickly, Den called, gesturing towards an opening that appeared in the spire's base. Zara didn't need to be told twice. She sprinted for the entrance, the sounds of pursuit growing louder behind her. As soon as the last of them was inside, the opening sealed seamlessly, plunging them into momentary darkness before soft, ambient light filled the interior. Panting, Zara leaned against a wall that felt oddly warm and alive beneath her touch. What was that thing? She gasped. Skydancer, Looney repeated, their crest slowly fading from red to a calmer blue. Apex predator, very dangerous. You're lucky we found you when we did, Jen added. Alone, you would not have survived the night. Zara nodded, a chill running down her spine as she realized just how close she had come to becoming alien wildlife's dinner. Thank you, she said sincerely. You saved my life. And now, Eris said, their multifaceted eyes gleaming with barely contained excitement, you'll repay us with knowledge. Tell us everything, Earth-human. We have so much to learn. As Zara looked at the eager faces of her alien saviors, she couldn't help but smile. This wasn't how she had imagined her diplomatic mission going, but perhaps it was the beginning of something even greater. With a deep breath, she began to tell her story, bridging the gap between two worlds one word at a time. The interior of the Xenoran research outpost was a marvel of alien architecture and technology. Organic curves and pulsing bioluminescent surfaces created an environment that was both beautiful and disorienting to Zara's human senses. As her alien companions led her deeper into the structure, she found herself marveling at the seamless blend of nature and advanced science. This is incredible, Zara breathed, running her hand along a wall that seemed to respond to her touch with subtle shifts in color and texture. How does it all work? Looney's crest rippled with shades of purple, which Zara was beginning to associate with pride or satisfaction. Our technology is symbiotic, they said, searching for the right word. We grow it, nurture it. It lives with us. Zara nodded, her mind racing with the implications. The level of bioengineering required to create such a structure was far beyond anything humanity had achieved. She made a mental note to gather as much information as possible about Xenoran technology, assuming she ever made it back to report her findings. The group arrived at what appeared to be a central chamber. The room was dominated by a large, pulsating orb suspended in midair, surrounded by floating screens displaying a dizzying array of data and images. With a start, Zara realized that many of the images were of Earth, everything from cityscapes to nature documentaries to snippets of human entertainment. "Welcome to our study center," Jen said, gesturing proudly at the displays. "Here, we learn all we can about your species." Eris moved to what looked like a control panel, their long fingers dancing over the surface. The screen shifted, now displaying various angles of the stargazer's crash site. "We detected your arrival," they explained. "It is why we were in the forest. We hope to make contact." Zara felt a mix of awe and unease. The young Xenoran's ability to monitor her crash and quickly locate her was impressive, but it also raised questions about just how much they had been observing Earth without humanity's knowledge. "I'm grateful you found me," Zara said carefully, "but I have to ask, why all this secrecy? Why haven't your people made official contact with Earth?" The three Xenorans exchanged glances, their crests flickering through a series of rapid color changes that Zara couldn't interpret. Finally, Lumi spoke, their voice tinged with what sounded like embarrassment. "It is complicated," they said. "Our elders, they fear outside influence, believe isolation is safest, but we, the younger generation, we are curious. We want to learn to connect." Jen nodded enthusiastically. "Your species fascinates us," they added. "Your resilience, your creativity, your drive to explore. We study in secret, hoping to understand." Zara's diplomatic training kicked in as she recognized the delicate situation she found herself in. These young Xenorans were clearly acting against the wishes of their elders, driven by a thirst for knowledge and connection. It was an opportunity, but also a potential powder keg. "I understand," Zara said gently. "Curiosity is a powerful force, but you must realize the risks you're taking. If your elders discover what you're doing—" "They will not," Eris interrupted, their tone confident. "We are careful, and now that you are here, we can learn even more." Zara felt a twinge of unease at Eris' words. "I'm happy to share what I can," she said, "but you must understand that I have a mission of my own. I need to contact my people, let them know I'm alive." The three Xenorans conferred briefly in their musical language before Lumi turned back to Zara. "We will help you," they said. "But first, you must help us. Fair exchange, yes." Zara weighed her options. She was at the mercy of these alien researchers, but they seemed genuinely eager to learn and help. Perhaps this unexpected first contact could still lead to the diplomatic breakthrough she had been sent to achieve. "All right," Zara agreed. "I'll answer your questions and share what I can. In return, I need your help repairing my communication equipment and boosting my distress signal." The Xenorans' crests flared with excited colors. "Agreed," Ven chirped. "Oh, we have so many questions." What followed was an intensive cultural exchange unlike anything in human history. For hours, Zara found herself bombarded with questions on every aspect of human life, from biology and technology to art, music, and social customs. The young Xenorans were particularly fascinated by human emotions, relationships, and the concept of individual identity. In turn, Zara learned more about Xenoran society and biology. She discovered that their color-changing crests were a vital part of their communication, conveying nuances of emotion and meaning that went far beyond verbal language. Their society was highly communal, with a strong emphasis on collective harmony and shared knowledge. As the exchange continued, Zara began to notice subtle differences in the personalities of her three companions. Lumi was the most level-headed and diplomatic, often mediating between the others. Jen was bursting with enthusiastic curiosity, their questions ranging from profound philosophical inquiries to amusingly trivial details about human life. Eris, meanwhile, had a more reserved and analytical approach, often asking probing questions about human science and technology. "Your species is so diverse," Eris mused at one point. "So many different cultures, beliefs, ways of life. How do you maintain unity?" Zara chuckled. That's a challenge we're still working on, she admitted. Unity in diversity is an ongoing process for us. We don't always get it right, but we keep trying. The conversation took a more serious turn when Zara broached the subject of interspecies relations. If your elders are so isolationist, she asked, how do you think they would react to official contact with humanity? The Xenoron's crests dimmed, taking on muted tones that Zara interpreted as concern or worry. It would be difficult, Lumi said carefully. Many fear outside influence could disrupt our way of life. But not impossible, Jen added quickly, their crest brightening. There are those who believe as we do. That connection with other species could enrich us all. Zara nodded thoughtfully. It was a familiar dilemma, one that many human cultures had grappled with throughout history. Change can be frightening, she acknowledged, but it can also bring growth and new possibilities. As they talked, Zara couldn't help but marvel at the strange twists of fate that had brought her here. Her mission had been to establish first contact, and in a way she had succeeded beyond her wildest dreams. But would this clandestine meeting with a group of young alien researchers be enough to bridge the gap between their species? The discussion was interrupted by a sudden alarm from one of the floating screens. Ares rushed to investigate, their crest flaring with urgent reds and oranges. Trouble, they announced grimly. A patrol ship approaches. They must have detected the energy signature from your crash. Zara felt her heart race. What does that mean for us? She asked, already suspecting the answer. Lumi's expression was grim. If they find you here, it will mean severe punishment for us, and who knows what for you. We must hide you quickly. The calm, academic atmosphere of moments ago evaporated, replaced by a flurry of urgent activity. Zen led Zara to a small alcove that seemed to materialize out of the living walls of the structure. Stay here, they instructed. The biofields will mask your life signs. Do not make a sound, no matter what you hear. As Zara squeezed into the hiding place, she caught a glimpse of Ares working frantically at the control panel, presumably erasing any evidence of their interaction. The last thing she saw before the alcove sealed around her was Lumi's face, their expression a mix of fear and determination. We will protect you, Lumi whispered. Trust in us. Then darkness enveloped Zara, leaving her alone with her thoughts and the muffled sounds of approaching danger. As she huddled in the confined space, Zara couldn't help but reflect on the precariousness of her situation. She had come to Xenora Prime hoping to build bridges between their species, but now she found herself caught in the middle of what could become a serious diplomatic incident, or worse. The minutes stretched on, feeling like hours in the darkness of her hiding place. Zara strained her ears, trying to make out what was happening outside. She could hear muffled voices, the higher tones of her young friends mixed with deeper, more authoritative sounds that must belong to the patrol. Though she couldn't understand the Xenoron language, the tension in the voices was clear. Zara's hand instinctively went to her plasma pistol, but she forced herself to remain still. Using a weapon now would only make things worse, potentially destroying any chance of peaceful relations between their species. Suddenly, a new sound cut through the muffled voices, a high-pitched, keening wail that made Zara's skin crawl. It took her a moment to recognize it as the same cry they had heard in the forest, the sky dancer. The voices outside grew more urgent, and Zara heard what sounded like a door opening. Then, abruptly, silence fell. For several long moments, Zara remained frozen in her hiding place, unsure of what was happening. Had the patrol left? Were her friends safe? Or had everything gone horribly wrong? Just as she was considering the risk of emerging from her hiding place, the alcove began to open. Zara tensed, ready for anything, but it was Lumi's familiar face that greeted her. It is safe now, Lumi said, their crest a swirl of relieved blues and greens. Come quickly. We don't have much time. As Zara stumbled out of the alcove, she was met with a scene of controlled chaos. Jen and Ares were rapidly packing equipment and data storage devices, while the central orb pulsed with urgent patterns of light. What happened? Zara asked, helping Jen secure a pack of what looked like portable computers. The patrol was searching for the source of the crash. Lumi explained hurriedly. We convinced them it was merely debris, possibly from an old satellite. The Skydancer's cry gave credence to our story. They believed it had been attracted by the metal. Zara let out a breath she hadn't realized she'd been holding. Quick thinking, she said admiringly. But why all this? She gestured at the frantic packing. Eris paused in their work, their expression grave. The patrol may have been fooled for now, but they will return with more thorough scanning equipment. It is no longer safe here. We're evacuating, Jen added, their usual enthusiasm tempered by the seriousness of the situation. And you're coming with us. Zara's mind raced. On one hand, leaving the relative safety of the outposts seemed risky. On the other, staying put would almost certainly lead to her discovery and potential diplomatic disaster. Where will we go? She asked, already knowing she had little choice but to trust these young aliens who had risked so much for her. Lumi's crest shimmered with determination. To the mountains, they said. There are caves there, shielded from sensors. We can hide, plan our next move. As they finished packing, Eris approached Zara with a small, pulsating device. Your communicator, they explained. I've integrated some of our technology. It should boost your signal, but only when we reach higher ground. Zara took the device, marveling at the seamless blend of human and Xenaran tech. Thank you, she said sincerely. All of you, you're taking an enormous risk for me. Not just for you, Jen said, their crest flickering with excited colors despite the tension. For the future, for understanding between our peoples. As the group prepared to venture out into the alien night, Zara felt a mix of trepidation and exhilaration. She had come to Xenora Prime seeking first contact, and now she found herself embarking on a dangerous journey with 3 young alien rebels. It wasn't the mission she had planned, but it was a chance to make a real difference, to bridge the gap between their species in a way no official diplomat ever could. All right, Zara said, squaring her shoulders. Let's do this, together. With a final check of their supplies and a moment of silent communication between the Xenarans, the unlikely group slipped out of the research outpost and into the bioluminescent forest. As they moved swiftly through the alien landscape, Zara couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much greater adventure, one that could change the course of both their worlds forever. The night was alive with strange sounds and shifting shadows, but Zara found comfort in the presence of her new allies. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them as a team, human and Xenaran, united by curiosity, courage, and the hope for a shared future among the stars. The hunt begins. The alien forest pulsed with bioluminescent life as Zara and her Xenaran companions made their way through the dense undergrowth. The warm, humid air was thick with unfamiliar scents and the distant calls of creatures Zara could scarcely imagine. Despite the beauty of her surroundings, every shadow seemed to hide potential danger. Lumi led the group, their crest shifting through muted blues and greens as they navigated the treacherous terrain. Jen brought up the rear, their eyes constantly scanning for signs of pursuit. Eris walked beside Zara, occasionally offering a steadying hand when the human stumbled on the uneven ground. How far to the mountains? Zara asked in a hushed voice, acutely aware of how alien she must appear in this environment. Eris' crest flickered with thoughtful purples. At our current pace, we should reach the foothills by dawn, they replied, but the journey will grow more difficult as we ascend. Zara nodded, conserving her breath. The gravity on Xenora Prime was slightly higher than Earth's, and she could feel the strain in her muscles with each step. Still, the adrenaline of their escape and the sheer wonder of her situation kept her moving forward. As they walked, Zara's mind churned with questions. Tell me more about your world, she said to Eris. Why are your people so isolationist? Have you always been this way? Eris was quiet for a moment, their crest shifting to deeper, more somber hues. It is a long and complex history, they began, but in essence, Our isolation stems from a great tragedy in our past. Centuries ago, our ancestors made contact with another spacefaring race. The exchange of knowledge and culture was initially celebrated as a new era for our people. What went wrong? Zara asked, sensing the weight of untold sorrow in Eris's words. Disease, Eris said simply. A virus, harmless to the other species, but devastating to ours. It spread rapidly, killing millions before we could develop a cure. In the aftermath, our leaders decided that the risk of outside contact was too great. We retreated from the galactic stage, focusing inward on healing and rebuilding. Zara felt a chill despite the warm night air. It was a scenario that had been theorized and feared by human scientists, the possibility that alien microbes could prove deadly to humanity, or vice versa. I'm so sorry, she said softly. That must have been terrible for your people. Era's crest rippled with appreciation for her empathy. It was long ago, but the scars remain. It is why our elders resist change and fear outsiders. But some of us believe it is time to move beyond that fear, to reconnect with the wider universe. Their conversation was interrupted by a low, urgent whistle from Lumi. The group quickly took cover behind a cluster of large, phosphorescent fungi. Zara held her breath, straining her ears for any sound of danger. For a long moment, all was still. Then, Zara heard it, a faint whine, growing steadily louder. She looked to her companions for explanation. Drone, Jen whispered, their crest a mix of agitated reds and oranges. Search pattern. They must suspect we've left the outpost. Zara's heart raced. The patrol was clearly more persistent than they had hoped. What do we do? She asked, her hand instinctively moving to her plasma pistol. Lumi's expression was grim. We cannot outrun it, and if it detects us, more will come. We must disable it without destroying it entirely. A crash would draw too much attention. Zara's mind raced, years of training and problem-solving kicking into high gear. She glanced at her modified communicator, then at the bioluminescent fungi surrounding them. An idea began to form. I have a plan, she said quickly, but I'll need your help. Eris, can you use my communicator to emit a pulse that will temporarily scramble the drone's sensors? Eris nodded, their crest flickering with interest. Yes, but only at close range. We would need to lure it near. Leave that to me, Zara said, already gathering handfuls of the glowing fungus. Lumi, Jen, I need you to help me with something. Quick, before it gets too close. As the whine of the approaching drone grew louder, Zara outlined her plan. The Xenorans listened intently, their crests shifting through shades of surprise and admiration. Ingenious, Lumi murmured. Truly, your species' reputation for creative problem-solving is well-deserved. There was no time for further discussion. As the drone's searchlight began to sweep through the trees nearby, the group sprang into action. Zara and the Xenorans worked quickly, smearing the bioluminescent material from the fungi over their bodies in specific patterns. When they were ready, Zara nodded to Eris, who activated the communicator. A soft, pulsing tone emanated from the device, inaudible to their ears, but irresistible to the drone's sensors. The plan worked perfectly. The drone zeroed in on the signal, descending through the canopy towards their position. As it approached, Zara and her companions began to move in carefully choreographed patterns, their glowing bodies mimicking the bioluminescent flora of the forest. The drone hovered, its sensors clearly confused by the conflicting data. It was seeing life signs, but in patterns that matched the surrounding plant life. As it drew closer, trying to make sense of the anomaly, Eris activated the pulse from Zara's communicator. The effect was immediate. The drone's lights flickered, and it began to spin erratically. Before it could crash, Lumi leaped forward with astonishing agility, catching the disabled machine. Quickly, Lumi hissed, "It will reboot soon. We must be far from here when it does." The group took off at a run, their glowing bodies creating a surreal light show as they dashed through the forest. Only when they had put significant distance between themselves and the drone's last known position did they slow to catch their breath. "That was amazing," Jen panted, their crest a riot of excited colors. "Zara, how did you know that would work?" Zara grinned, still riding the adrenaline high of their success. "I didn't, not for certain, but I figured the drone would be calibrated to ignore the bioluminescent plant life as background noise. By mimicking those patterns, we became invisible in plain sight." Ares nodded appreciatively. "A brilliant application of camouflage principles. You've given us much to think about regarding our own defensive technologies." As they resumed their journey towards the mountains, Zara felt a growing sense of camaraderie with her alien companions. They had faced danger together and emerged victorious through teamwork and creative thinking. It was a small victory, but an important one, proof that humans and Xenorans could work together effectively. The group walked in companionable silence for a time, each lost in their own thoughts. As the first hints of dawn began to lighten the alien sky, painting it in shades of green and gold, Lumi called for a brief rest. They found shelter in the hollow of a massive tree-like organism, its interior glowing with a soft, soothing light. As they shared ration bars and what Zen called water fruit, a local plant with pods full of sweet, hydrating liquid, Zara took the opportunity to learn more about her companions. "Tell me about yourselves," she said. "How did you three end up running a secret human research station?" The Xenorans exchanged glances, their crests shifting through thoughtful hues. Lumi spoke first, their voice tinged with a mix of pride and nostalgia. "We met at the Academy of Cosmic Studies," they explained. "It's one of the few institutions on our world that still teaches about life beyond Sonora Prime, though much of it is theoretical. The three of us shared a fascination with your species that went beyond academic interest." Zdan nodded enthusiastically. "Human transmissions have been reaching our world for decades: radio, television, internet signals. Most dismiss them as background noise or potential security threats. But we saw them for what they were: windows into a vibrant, diverse culture full of possibilities. We began decoding and studying these transmissions in secret," Ares added. "The more we learned, the more convinced we became that isolation was holding our people back. Humanity's drive to explore, to innovate, to overcome challenges, it inspired us." Zara listened, fascinated by their perspective. "So you decided to set up your own research station. That must have been incredibly risky." Lumi's crest rippled with a mix of blue determination and yellow anxiety. "It is. If we're discovered, we'll face severe consequences. But we believe the potential benefits outweigh the risks. Your arrival, Zara, is proof that we were right to hope for contact." The gravity of their actions wasn't lost on Zara. These young Xenorans had put everything on the line: their academic careers, their standing in society, potentially even their freedom, all for the chance to learn about and connect with humanity. "I'm honored by your trust," Zara said solemnly, "and I promise you, when I make contact with my people, I'll do everything in my power to ensure your actions are recognized for what they are: a brave step towards a better future for both our species." The moment was interrupted by a distant, echoing cry, similar to the skydancer's call they had heard earlier, but deeper, more resonant. The Xenorans immediately tensed, their crests flushing with alarmed reds and oranges. "What is it?" Zara asked, her hand moving to her weapon. "Shadow Striker," Ares said grimly. "Apex predator of the mountains. If it's hunting this low in the foothills, something must have disturbed its usual territory." The patrols, Lumi realized aloud. Their increased activity must be driving the large predators out of their normal ranges. Jen peered out of their shelter, their crest shifting nervously. "We should move. Now. The mountains are close, but will be exposed on the slopes." As the group quickly gathered their supplies and prepared to move out, Zara couldn't shake a growing sense of unease. The stakes of their journey were rising with each passing hour. It wasn't just pursuit from the Xenoran authorities they had to worry about now, but the very ecosystem of this alien world seemed to turn against them. Yet, as she looked at the determined faces of her companions, Zara felt a surge of hope. Together, they had already overcome challenges that would have seemed impossible just days ago. Whatever lay ahead in those looming mountains, they would face it as a team, human and Xenaren united in their quest for understanding and connection. With a deep breath, Zara stepped out of the shelter and into the alien dawn. The mountains rose before them, their peaks shrouded in mist and mystery. It would be a hard climb, fraught with danger from both natural and intelligent threats. But it was also a climb towards possibility, towards a future where their peoples might stand together among the stars. "Let's go," Zara said, her voice filled with determination. "We've got a distress signal to send and a whole lot of history to make." As they set off towards the mountain trails, the strange, harmonious cry of the Shadow Striker echoed behind them, a reminder of the wild, untamed nature of Sonora Prime and the challenges that lay ahead. But for Zara and her unlikely alien friends, it was also a call to adventure, spurring them onwards towards an uncertain but hopeful future. Secrets unveiled. The ascent into the mountains of Sonora Prime was grueling. Zara's muscles burned with each step, the slightly higher gravity of the alien world making the climb even more challenging. The air grew thinner as they ascended, carrying strange, metallic scents that tickled her nose and made her eyes water. Despite the physical strain, Zara couldn't help but marvel at the breathtaking alien landscape. The mountain slopes were covered in a mosaic of crystalline structures that shimmered and pulsed with inner light, responding to some unseen rhythm. Bizarre, spiral-shaped plants clung to sheer rock faces, their tendrils waving gently in the wind. "It's beautiful," Zara breathed during a brief rest, wiping sweat from her brow. Lumi nodded, their crest shimmering with pride and a touch of melancholy. "Few of our people ever venture this far from the cities. It is good to see our world through new eyes." As they climbed higher, the group fell into a rhythm, each member playing to their strengths. Lumi's sure-footed grace made them an ideal guide, finding the safest paths up the treacherous slopes. Zen's keen senses kept them alert for any signs of pursuit or danger. Erez worked tirelessly on Zara's communicator, fine-tuning it to penetrate the atmospheric interference. Zara, for her part, found herself drawing on reserves of strength and determination she hadn't known she possessed. Her diplomatic training had prepared her for complex negotiations and cultural sensitivities, but not for this kind of physical endurance. Yet with each difficult step, she felt a growing sense of pride and purpose. As the alien sun reached its zenith, casting long, violet shadows across the crystalline landscape, Erez called for a halt. "We're nearly in position," they announced, studying the readouts on Zara's modified communicator. "Just over that ridge, we should have a clear line to broadcast your distress signal." A mixture of relief and anxiety washed over Zara. Soon, she would be able to contact her people, to let them know she was alive. But what would that mean for her new Xenaren friends? For the delicate first contact situation they now found themselves in? Before she could voice these concerns, a low rumble shook the ground beneath their feet. Loose stones clattered down the mountainside as the tremor intensified. "Earthquake?" Zara asked, struggling to keep her balance. Zen's crest flared with alarm. "No worse. Look." Following Zen's gaze, Zara saw a massive shape emerging from behind a distant peak. At first, she thought it was a cloud, but as it drew closer, she realized with a mix of awe and terror that it was alive. The creature was enormous, its body serpentine and semi-transparent, undulating through the air as if swimming through an invisible ocean. "Sky whale," Luna whispered, their voice filled with reverence and fear. "I thought they were just legends." The sky whale's passage sent shockwaves through the air, causing the crystal formations around them to resonate with an eerie, keening song. As the creature drifted closer, Zara could make out intricate patterns swirling across its translucent skin, pulsing with bioluminescence. "It's beautiful," Zara breathed, momentarily forgetting the danger they were in. Eris nodded, their crest a mix of scientific curiosity and caution. Beautiful, yes, but also dangerous. The electromagnetic fields they generate can wreak havoc on technology. We need to find shelter, quickly. As if in response to Eris's words, Zara's communicator began to spark and sputter. The sky whale's presence was interfering with the delicate Xeneron modifications. This way, Looney called, pointing towards a dark opening in the mountainside. There's a cave system. It should shield us from the worst of the effects. The group scrambled towards the cave entrance, loose rocks sliding treacherously under their feet as the sky whales approached sent tremors through the mountain. They ducked inside just as a wave of electromagnetic energy washed over them, causing the crystals at the cave's mouth to flare with blinding light. For a moment, all was chaos and confusion. Zara found herself pressed against the cool, damp wall of the cave, her ears ringing from the crystal's resonance. As her eyes adjusted to the dimness, she did a quick head count. Relief washed over her as she confirmed that all of her companions had made it to safety. "Is everyone all right?" she called out. A chorus of affirmatives answered her, though Ares added, "The communicator is damaged. I'll need time to repair it." As the initial shock of their close call wore off, Zara became aware of their surroundings. The cave was larger than she had first thought, its walls lined with softly glowing veins of some bioluminescent mineral. The air was cool and damp, carrying a faint, musty scent. "We should be safe here for now," Lumi said, their crest gradually shifting from alarmed reds to calmer blues. "The sky whale will pass soon, but we may need to wait out any lingering electromagnetic disturbances." Jen, ever curious, had already begun to explore deeper into the cave. "Hey, look at this," they called excitedly. "There's something strange back here." The group cautiously made their way deeper into the cavern, following Jen's voice. As they rounded a bend, Zara gasped in surprise. The narrow passage opened into a vast chamber, its ceiling lost in shadows high above. But it was what filled the chamber that took her breath away. Arranged in concentric circles were dozens of tall, obelisk-like structures. Each was covered in intricate, glowing symbols that pulsed with a soft, rhythmic light. At the center of the formation stood a larger pillar, topped with what looked like a control panel of some kind. What is this place?" Zara breathed, her voice hushed with awe. The Xenorans seemed equally stunned. "I've never seen anything like it," Eris murmured, their crest flickering with intense curiosity. "These symbols, they're not like any Xenoran script I know." Looney approached one of the obelisks, studying the glyphs intently. "Some of these look almost familiar, but how is that possible?" As they explored the chamber, a strange sense of déjà vu washed over Zara. There was something about the arrangement of the obelisks, the style of the symbols. It tickled at the edges of her memory. "Wait a second," she said slowly, an impossible idea forming in her mind. She dug into her pack, pulling out a small data tablet she had salvaged from the crash. It took a moment to power up, but soon she was scrolling through files. "Here," she exclaimed, holding up the tablet for the others to see. On the screen was an image of ancient cave paintings discovered on Earth, depicting strange, monolithic structures arranged in circular patterns. The Xenorans crowded around, their crests shifting through shades of shock and disbelief as they compared the image to their surroundings. "How is this possible?" Jen asked, their voice barely above a whisper. "These structures on your world, they're almost identical to what we're seeing here." Eris's analytical mind was already racing ahead. The implications are staggering. If similar structures exist on both our worlds, it suggests a common origin, Zara finished, her heart pounding with the magnitude of the discovery, or at least contact between our species, far in the past. Lumi's crest rippled with a complex mix of emotions. But that goes against everything we've been taught about our history. The isolation policy, the fear of outside contact, could it all be based on a lie? As the group grappled with the implications of their discovery, Zora approached the central pillar. The control panel, if that's what it was, seemed to hum with latent energy. Without fully understanding why, she felt drawn to it. "Careful," Erez warned, but Zara barely heard them. Almost in a trance, she reached out and placed her hand on the smooth surface of the panel. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, with a surge of energy that made her hair stand on end, the entire chamber came to life. The symbols on the obelisks began to glow more brightly, pulsing in complex, synchronized patterns. A holographic display sprang to life above the central pillar, showing star maps and streams of data in a script that was neither human nor Xenoran. "It's some kind of database," Erez hypothesized, their scientific curiosity overcoming their caution as they moved to examine the display. As the group watched in awe, the hologram shifted, showing images of different worlds, some recognizable, others utterly alien, and there, unmistakable among them, were images of Earth and Xenora Prime. "By the ancestors," Lumi breathed, their crest a kaleidoscope of conflicting emotions. "Our worlds, they're connected. They've always been connected." Zora's mind reeled as she tried to process the implications. The existence of this ancient, hidden database suggested a level of technological advancement far beyond what either humans or Xenorans had achieved. More importantly, it hinted at a shared heritage, or at least a shared history that had been lost or deliberately hidden. "This changes everything," she said, her voice filled with a mix of excitement and trepidation. "If we can decipher this information, it could revolutionize our understanding of our place in the universe. It could be the key to bringing our peoples together." Jen, who had been studying the data streams intently, suddenly let out a gasp. "Look at this," they exclaimed, pointing to a section of the hologram. "These readings, they're current. This isn't just a historical database. It's still active, still monitoring both our worlds." The revelation sent a shiver through the group. The idea that some ancient, unknown entity had been watching both Earth and Xenora Prime for who knew how long was both thrilling and unsettling. As they debated the implications of their discovery, a new sound reached them from the cave entrance, the whine of approaching drones mixed with the rhythmic marching of feet. "The patrol," Erez hissed, their crest flushing with alarm. "They must have tracked us here." Zora's mind raced. They couldn't let this discovery fall into the hands of those who would suppress it. But neither could they hope to fight their way past what sounded like a sizable force. In that moment of crisis, Zora made a decision that would change the course of two worlds. "Erez," she said urgently, "is there any way to download this data onto my communicator, or to establish a link so we can access it remotely?" Erez nodded, already moving to the control panel. "I think so, yes, but it will take time, and it might overload the system." "Do it," Zora commanded. Then, turning to Lumi and Jen, she continued, "We need to buy them time. Can you two create a distraction? Lead the patrol away from here." Lumi's crest rippled with determination. "It's risky, but yes. We know these mountains better than they do. We can lead them on a wild chase." "Good," Zora nodded. "Go and be careful. We'll rendezvous at the summit when it's clear." As Lumi and Jen slipped out of the chamber, Zora turned back to Erez, who was working feverishly at the control panel. The sounds of the approaching patrol grew louder. "How much longer?" Zora asked tensely. "Almost there," Erez replied, their crest flickering with concentration. "But Zora, you should know. This much data, it's going to overload your communicator. Once the transfer is complete, we'll have minutes at most before it burns out completely." Zora swallowed hard. Her communicator was her only link to her people, her only way to call for help. But the information in this database, it was quite possibly the most important discovery in the history of both their species. "Do it," she said firmly. "Some things are more important than a rescue." As Erez initiated the download, the chamber filled with a high-pitched whine. The holographic display flickered and distorted, the ancient systems straining under the effort of transferring eons of data. In the distance, they could hear shouts of confusion. Lumi and Jen's distraction was working, drawing the patrol away from the cave. But how long would it last? Zara stood tense, her hand on her plasma pistol, ready to defend their discovery if it came to that. But her mind was already racing ahead, grappling with the implications of what they had found. This hidden chamber, this ancient database, it was proof that humanity and its Xenorans were not alone in the universe. More than that, it suggested a connection between their species that went back far longer than anyone had imagined. As the download neared completion, Zara felt the weight of history on her shoulders. Whatever happened next, she knew that the future of both their worlds would never be the same. The truth was out there, hidden in the mountains of an alien world, waiting to be shared. The communicator gave a final, straining beep as the transfer finished. Eris quickly disconnected it, handling the device gingerly. "It's done," they announced, their crest a mix of triumph and worry. "But we need to move now. This data, it's too important to fall into the wrong hands." Zara nodded grimly. "Then let's make sure it doesn't. Come on, we've got a rendezvous to make and a universe of secrets to unravel." As they slipped out of the ancient chamber and back into the twisting caves, Zara clutched the communicator close. In her hands, she held the key to reshaping the destiny of two worlds. All they have to do now was survive long enough to share it. The echo of pursuit faded behind them as they climbed higher into the mountains. Ahead lay uncertainty, danger, and the promise of a truth long hidden. But for Zara and her Xenoran allies, it was a journey they would face together, a human and alien united in their quest for understanding and a shared future among the stars. The air grew thin and bitterly cold as Zara and Eris ascended the treacherous mountain slopes of Sonora Prime. Each breath burned in Zara's lungs, the alien atmosphere taking its toll on her human physiology. But the weight of the overloaded communicator in her pack drove her onward. Within that small device lay secrets that could reshape the understanding of two worlds. How much further to the rendezvous point? Zara gasped, pausing to catch her breath behind a jutting crystal formation. Eris' crest flickered with concern and determination. Not far now. The summit plateau is just beyond that ridge. They gestured towards a craggy outcropping above them. But Zara, your vital signs. This altitude is pushing your body to its limits. Zara managed a grim smile. "I've come too far to give up now. We just need to reach Lumi and Jen, then figure out our next move." As if summoned by her words, a familiar whistle cut through the thin mountain air. Moments later, Lumi and Jen appeared, scrambling over a nearby ledge. Their crests were flushed with exertion and agitation. "The patrol is right behind us," Lumi reported breathlessly. "We led them on a wild chase, but they're regrouping. It won't be long before they find us." Jen nodded, their crest rippling with nervous energy. "And that's not all. We overheard their communications. They've called in reinforcements. A dropship is on its way." The gravity of their situation settled over the group like a heavy shroud. They were outnumbered, outgunned, and trapped on a mountain with nowhere left to run. Zara's mind raced, considering and discarding options. "The communicator," she said finally. "Eris, he said we only have a short window before it burns out from the data overload, right?" Eris nodded. "Yes, the systems are already starting to degrade. We have perhaps an hour, maybe less, before the data is lost. Then we need to transmit it. Now." Zara's voice was filled with grim determination. "It's our only chance to get this information out before it's lost or captured." The Xenorans exchanged glances, their crests shifting through complex patterns of color. It was Lumi who spoke first, their voice soft but resolute. "You understand what this means, don't you? If we broadcast this data, there's no going back. The truth about our shared history, the existence of the ancient database, it will change everything for both our peoples." Zara nodded sullenly. "I know, but I also know that the truth is too important to stay buried. Whatever consequences come, we'll face them together." With a collective sense of purpose, the group made their way to the summit plateau. The alien wind howled around them, whipping crystals of ice and strange, iridescent pollen through the air. In the distance, they could hear the approaching whine of the patrol's drones. Ares worked feverishly to set up the communicator, boosting its signal strength for deep space transmission. Zara stood watch with Lumi and Jen, her plasma pistol at the ready. "There's something you should know," Zara said to her Xenaran friends as they waited. "When this transmission goes out, it won't just be to my people. The frequency we're using, it'll be picked up by every major listening post in this sector of the galaxy. Human, Xenaran, and who knows what else." Zen's crest flared with a mix of excitement and apprehension. "You mean?" Zara nodded. "We're not just changing the future of our two species. We might be changing the course of galactic history." Before anyone could respond, the first of the patrol drones crested the ridge. Zara raised her weapon, preparing to defend their position, but Lumi laid a restraining hand on her arm. "Wait," they said, their crest rippling with an idea. "I have a better plan." What followed was a masterclass in Xenaran biomanipulation. Lumi and Jen worked in perfect synchronization, using their natural bioluminescence and fine control over their body's chemistry to produce a dazzling light show. They mimicked the pulsing patterns they had seen in the ancient chamber, creating phantom images of the obelisks all around them. The drones, their sensors confused by the display, began to malfunction. Some crashed into the mountainside, while others spun in useless circles, unable to lock onto their targets. Zara watched in awe, once again struck by the incredible adaptability and ingenuity of her alien friends. "Remind me never to play hide and seek with you too," she quipped, her admiration evident. Their momentary victory was short-lived, however. The whine of engines announced the arrival of the dropship, its sleek form descending through the clouds like a bird of prey. "Ares?" Zara called urgently. "How much longer?" "Transmission commencing now," Ares replied, their crest flaring with triumph. "But we'll need to maintain the signal for at least 5 minutes to ensure complete data transfer." 5 minutes. It might as well have been an eternity. The dropship touched down at the far end of the plateau, disgorging a squad of Xenaran security forces. Unlike Zara's friends, these Xenarans moved with military precision, their crests muted and uniform. "Surrender immediately," a voice boomed from the dropship's speakers. "You are in violation of multiple planetary security protocols. Comply, or we will use force." Zara stepped forward, placing herself between the advancing forces and her friends. "My name is Captain Zara Chen of Earth," she called out, her voice steady despite her pounding heart. "I am here on a diplomatic mission. What's happening here goes beyond your security protocols. Please just let us finish this transmission. It's vital for both our peoples." Her words gave the security forces pause, confusion evident in the flickering of their crests. It was clear they hadn't expected to encounter a human, let alone one claiming diplomatic status. Taking advantage of their hesitation, Lumi stepped up beside Zara. "Brothers, sisters," they addressed the security team. "We've discovered something incredible. Ancient ruins that prove our species have a shared history. The isolation policy, it's based on a lie." For a moment, it seemed like Lumi's impassioned plea might sway them. But then a new figure emerged from the dropship, an older Xenaran with an air of authority and a crest that radiated cold determination. "Enough of this foolishness," the elder Xenaran snapped. "I am High Counselor Vex, and I will not allow a group of misguided youths and an alien intruder to undo centuries of carefully maintained security. Secure them now." The security forces snapped back to attention, advancing with weapons raised. Zara's mind raced, searching for a way out of this standoff without bloodshed. It was Jan who provided the solution. With a cry of "look out," they pointed to the sky behind the security forces. As one, the Xenarans turned, just in time to see the massive, translucent form of the sky whale emerge from the clouds. The creature's presence sent a wave of electromagnetic interference washing over the plateau. The dropship's engines sputtered and died, while the security force's weapons and communication devices went haywire. In the ensuing chaos, Zara and her friends made their move. They dashed towards the dropship, using the confusion to their advantage. Ares cradled the still-transmitting communicator, shielding it as best they could from the electromagnetic disturbance. "Into the ship," Zara shouted. "It's our only way out of here." They reached the dropship just as High Counselor Vex was stumbling out, his crest flaring with outrage. Without hesitation, Lumi used a well-placed nerve strike to render the elder Xenoran unconscious. "I'm sorry," Lumi murmured, genuine regret coloring their voice. But sometimes progress requires difficult choices. As they dragged the unconscious counselor clear of the vessel, Ares called out in triumph, "Transmission complete. The data is out there, for better or worse. We've changed everything." With the security forces still reeling from the Sky Whale's interference, Zara and her Xenoran allies managed to seal themselves inside the dropship. Zen, revealing a hidden talent for vehicle systems, worked to bypass the fried electronics and get the engines online. "Zara," Ares said urgently, "the communicator, it's failing. Whatever we do next, we're on our own. No way to contact your people or anyone else." Zara nodded grimly. "Then we'll just have to make sure we deliver the news in person. Jen, can you get this bird in the air?" Jen's crest rippled with determination. "I think so, yes. But where are we going?" For a moment, Zara hesitated. They were fugitives now, wanted by the Xenoran authorities. Her own people had no idea where she was or what had happened. They were adrift between two worlds, carrying a truth too big for either of them. But as she looked at the faces of her Xenoran friends, Lumi's steadfast resolve, Jen's irrepressible curiosity, Ares's analytical calm, Zara felt a surge of hope and purpose. "We're going to the capital," she declared, "to the heart of your world's government. If we're going to change things, we need to aim high." As the dropship's engines roared to life, Zara caught a last glimpse of the Sky Whale through the viewport. The majestic creature seemed to hang motionless in the air, a silent witness to the momentous events unfolding below. In that moment, as they lifted off from the mountain plateau, with alarms blaring and the shouts of the security forces fading behind them, Zara felt the weight of two worlds on her shoulders. But she also felt the strength of the bonds she had forged with her unlikely alien allies. Whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together, human and Xenoran united in their quest for truth, understanding, and a shared future among the stars. The dropship banked sharply, heading towards the glittering Xenoran capital on the horizon. As the alien landscape rushed by below them, Zara allowed herself a small smile. Their journey was far from over, but they had taken the first crucial steps towards a new era of interstellar cooperation. The truth was out there now, racing across the cosmos in a burst of data. Soon, both Earth and Xenora Prime would have to confront the reality of their shared heritage and the vast, ancient mystery that connected them. And Zara, along with her brave Xenoran friends, would be there to help guide their peoples towards a future brighter than either world could have imagined alone. The Xenoran capital sprawled beneath them, a breathtaking tapestry of bioluminescent architecture and swirling, organic shapes. Zara pressed her face to the dropship's viewport, marveling at the alien cityscape. Despite the dire circumstances, she couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder at being the first human to lay eyes on this sight. "It's beautiful," she murmured. Lumi nodded, their crest shimmering with a mix of pride and apprehension. "The Harmony Spires," they explained, pointing to a cluster of towering structures at the city's center. "Seat of our world government. It's where we need to go." As they approached the city, alarms began to blare inside the dropship's cockpit. Zen's crest flared with anxiety as they manipulated the controls. "We've been detected," they reported. "Air defense systems are locking onto us. We need to land, now, or they'll shoot us down." Ares, who had been monitoring communications channels, suddenly perked up. "Wait, I'm picking up a transmission. It's being broadcast on all frequencies. Listen." Through the dropship speakers came a familiar voice, High Counselor Vex. But the tone was different from the cold authority they had encountered on the mountain. Now the elder Xenaran sounded shaken, almost pleading. "To all citizens, the data broadcast from the mountains, it's genuine. Our world, our entire history, everything we thought we knew has changed. I urge everyone to remain calm as we." The transmission cut off abruptly, replaced by a cacophony of overlapping messages and alarms. "It seems," Lumi said slowly, their crest rippling with cautious hope, "that our transmission had an even greater impact than we anticipated." Zara nodded, a plan forming in her mind. "Jen, can you open a channel to the Air Defense Command?" Moments later, Zara's voice rang out across the Xenaran airways. "This is Captain Zara Chen of Earth, accompanied by Xenaran citizens Lumi, Jen, and Ares. We are the source of the data transmission. We come in peace and seek an audience with your leaders. Please allow us to land." For several tense heartbeats, there was no response. The dropship continued its descent towards the Harmony Spires, weapons locked onto them from all sides. Then, miraculously, a new voice crackled through the speakers. "Captain Chen, this is Air Marshal Cora. You and your companions are cleared to land on Platform Alpha 7. Be advised, you will be met by a security detail. Any hostile action will be met with lethal force." As Zen guided the dropship towards the designated landing platform, Zara turned to her friends. "Whatever happens next," she said solemnly, "I want you all to know how proud I am to have shared this journey with you. You've shown incredible bravery and dedication to the truth. No matter what our peoples decide, you've already changed the course of history." The Xenaran's crests rippled with emotion, gratitude, determination, and a touch of fear. Luni spoke for all of them. "And we are honored to call you friend, Zara of Earth. Together, we will face whatever comes." The dropship touched down with a gentle thud. As the engines powered down, they could see a contingent of Xenaran security forces forming a perimeter around the landing platform. At the forefront stood a dignified Xenaran with an elaborate crest that shimmered with authority, clearly a high-ranking official. Taking a deep breath, Zara stepped forward and activated the dropship's hatch. As it hissed open, she straightened her shoulders and prepared to face the future she and her friends had set in motion. The Xenaran official approached, flanked by guards. To Zara's surprise, their crest displayed not hostility, but a complex mix of curiosity and cautious optimism. "I am First Minister Thala," the official announced. "Captain Chen, citizens Lumi, Jen, and Ares, your actions have sparked a firestorm across our world. The data you've uncovered, if it's genuine, it changes everything we thought we knew about our place in the universe." Zara stepped forward, her voice steady and clear. "First Minister, I assure you the data is genuine. My friends and I discovered an ancient database hidden in the mountains. It contains proof of a shared history between our peoples, and possibly connections to other species as well. We believe this knowledge is too important to be suppressed or hidden." Thala's crest rippled thoughtfully. "Indeed, already, our scientists are poring over the transmitted data. The implications are staggering. But I must ask, why take such risks? Why defy our laws and traditions to bring this to light?" It was Lumi who answered, stepping up beside Zara. "Because isolation has held us back for too long, First Minister. The tragedy that led to our seclusion was terrible, yes. But in hiding from the galaxy, we've also hidden from our own potential. This discovery proves that we're not alone, that we've never truly been alone. It's time for us to rejoin the galactic community." Jen chimed in, their crest flickering with excitement. "Think of all we could learn, all we could accomplish by working together with species like the humans. The scientific and cultural exchange alone would be revolutionary." Eris, ever the pragmatist, added, "And let's not forget the security implications. If there are ancient forces out there that once connected our worlds, shouldn't we be prepared? United, we'll be stronger against any potential threats." First Minister Thala listened intently, their crest shifting through a kaleidoscope of colors as they processed the impassioned pleas. Finally, they turned to Zara. "And you, Captain Chen, what does Earth hope to gain from this revelation?" Zara chose her words carefully, acutely aware of the weight they carried. "Earth seeks friendship, First Minister. The chance to learn from you, to grow alongside you. We've long wondered if we were alone in the universe. Now we know we're not just not alone, but possibly linked by an ancient, shared heritage. That's a foundation for understanding that goes beyond simple diplomacy." She paused, then continued with conviction. "But more than that, this discovery reminds us that the universe is vast and full of wonders we've yet to understand. By working together, by combining our knowledge and our strengths, we have a chance to unlock secrets that could benefit all of our peoples." A murmur ran through the assembled Xanarans. Even the stoic security forces seemed moved by Zara's words, their crests flickering with a mix of hope and uncertainty. First Minister Thala was silent for a long moment, their crest pulsing with deep thought. When they spoke again, their voice carried the weight of history. "For centuries, we have hidden ourselves away, nursing old wounds and old fears. Perhaps it is time for that to change." They turned to address the gathered crowd. "Fellow Xanarans, we stand at a crossroads. The path before us is uncertain, filled with both promise and peril. But can we truly call ourselves explorers, scientists, seekers of truth if we turn away from this opportunity?" A ripple of agreement passed through the crowd, crests lighting up with excitement and determination. Thala continued, "I propose this. We will form a joint committee composed of our brightest minds," and they nodded towards Zara, "representatives from Earth. Together, we will study the ancient database, unravel its mysteries, and chart a course for our future among the stars." The announcement was met with a chorus of approval. Zara felt a wave of relief and elation wash over her. They had done it. Against all odds, they had opened the door to a new era of cooperation between their peoples. As the formalities began, talks of official diplomatic channels, scientific exchanges, and cultural missions, Zara found a quiet moment with her Xanaran friends. "We did it," she said softly, still hardly believing it herself. Lumi's crest shimmered with joy and pride. "We did, but it's only the beginning, isn't it?" Zara nodded. "There's so much work ahead. Bridging the gap between our cultures, unraveling the mysteries of that ancient database, not to mention explaining all of this to my superiors back on Earth." She chuckled at the thought of the debriefing that awaited her. Jen was practically vibrating with excitement. "Just think of all we'll learn. The scientific breakthroughs, the technological advancements. Oh, I can't wait to get started." Ares, true to form, was already considering the practical aspects. "We'll need to establish proper communication channels, set up cultural exchange programs, perhaps even consider joint space exploration initiatives." As her friends chatted enthusiastically about the future, Zara felt a profound sense of accomplishment and hope. Her mission had been to establish first contact, to open diplomatic relations with the Xanarans. She had achieved that goal, but in a way no one could have predicted. More than that, she'd have forged genuine friendships across the gulf of space. Lumi, Jen, and Ares had become more than allies. They were a testament to the potential for understanding and cooperation between their species. As the first rays of Sonora Prime's sun began to peek over the horizon, bathing the Harmony spires in a soft alien glow, Zara knew that they were witnessing the dawn of a new age. An age of unity, of shared discovery, of boundless possibility. There would be challenges ahead, of course. Centuries of isolation wouldn't be undone overnight. There would be those on both worlds who would resist change, who would cling to old fears and prejudices. But looking at the hope shining in the crests of her Xanaran friends, and feeling the excitement bubbling in her own chest, Zara knew that they were ready to face those challenges together. The ancient database had shown them that their peoples had been connected once before in some distant, mysterious past. Now, standing on the brink of a new era of cooperation, Zara and her friends had forged that connection anew, not through the designs of some long-lost progenitor race, but through their own courage, curiosity, and commitment to understanding. As officials from both worlds began to gather, preparing for the first official talks between Earth and Zenora Prime in centuries, Zara smiled to herself. The universe, she realized, was far grander and more interconnected than anyone had imagined. And now together, humanity and its Zenorans would step out into that vast cosmic ocean, ready to explore its wonders side by side. The triumph of unity, Zara mused, wasn't just about bringing two worlds together. It was about recognizing the fundamental connections that bound all sentient life: the thirst for knowledge, the capacity for friendship, the hope for a better future. In reaching out across the stars to clasp hands, or whatever appendages they might encounter, they were participating in something greater than themselves, greater even than their individual species. They were taking their first steps into a larger, more wondrous universe, and they were doing it together. As the new day dawned on Zenora Prime, Zara Chen, diplomat, explorer, and now bridge between worlds, stood ready to help guide her people and her new allies into that bright, shared future. The journey ahead would be challenging, filled with discoveries both wondrous and perhaps unsettling, but with unity, understanding, and the spirit of exploration that had driven both their peoples to look to the stars, she knew they were ready to face whatever the cosmos had in store. The story of humanity and its Zenorans was no longer one of isolation and missed connections. Now, it was a story of hope, of friendship forged in adversity, and of the limitless potential of united, curious minds. As Zara and her friends were ushered into the Harmony Spires for the first of many historic meetings, she felt the weight of two worlds on her shoulders. But it was a weight shared by the stalwart Lumi, the enthusiastic Zhen, and the analytical Ares. Together, they had changed the course of history. Together, they would help write the next chapter in the grand cosmic story of life among the stars. The future, vast and bright as the galaxy itself, beckoned, and hand in hand, human and Zenoran alike, they stepped forward to meet it.